Welcome back, guys. Terrence here, and for you new people, welcome to Comic Break 98, where I'm going to break down your favorite Marvel and DC storylines for all of you guys' viewing pleasure. Now, currently, we are in the midst of covering Jim Starlin and Marvel's The Infinity Gauntlet, and we are finishing issue number 1 right now, and we're going to start issue 2 in this same video. We're going to finish that, and yeah, let's get right back to it, guys. Before we begin, though, so as I'm recording this video, I dropped the first issue to Infinity Gauntlet yesterday, the video, and I've gotten a total of 3 subscribers and a bunch of comments and an overwhelming amount of support. And I just want to let you guys know that it means so much to me. It really warmed my heart to see, because at this point, most of my viewers are, friends of my Snapchat and other people who are just interested in Marvel and stumbled across my videos. But you guys are who I do it for. I've always been into Marvel my entire life, so it kind of made sense to do this, and the support that I got from you guys, it really just solidified that I should be doing this. So thank you guys, and let's do it. So picking up right where we left off from the last video, where Thanos had snapped his fingers and essentially deleted half of the life in the entire Marvel universe, the story picks up in New York City, where we see Spider-Man swinging around New York City, and I guess he's just, going through the rounds, finding crime or whatever. But what happens is his spider sense begins to go haywire, and he actually has to land and collect himself before he can process the situation and figure out what he needs to do next. And what we see is that Spider-Man begins to look in the streets to try to get an idea of what's going on. And it looks as if people are beginning to disappear because there's utter commotion going on. And there's some guy asking where his friend Charlie is. There's another lady screaming, "Where is her baby?" And as Spider-Man has seen all this, he comes to the realization that if all of these people are mysteriously disappearing, what about Mary Jane? Because you guys know, like Spider-Man and Mary Jane, those guys are the 1-2 punch in comics in terms of couples besides Superman and Lois Lane, I think. But yeah, so he basically makes that his first priority. He rushes to Mary Jane to find out if she's okay. So from here, the story basically picks up with Captain America and Avengers Tower, and I want you guys to pay attention to how the story cuts from character to character, how we just cut from Spider-Man to Captain America, because if you guys have been looking at any other coverage from the Avengers Infinity War movie, which from this point now as I'm recording comes out in less than 2 weeks, the Russo brothers, the directors of the film, they said that they're filming the movie in a sort of vignette style, similar to the show Nashville. I haven't seen it, so I'm not going to act like I know, but I do get what they're saying, like, there'll be groups of characters all in different scenes at the same point in time, but it'll all be a progressing narrative that'll all come to a climactic moment, which we all know will be when the Avengers come into the conflict with Thanos. And I think you guys should really pay attention to that because they really tried to find a way to fit all these characters in this movie, and I feel like this is the way to do it. But anyways, essentially what we see is Captain America basically doing the same thing that we had seen Spider-Man doing, just having a regular day going through the daily rounds. And we see that while he's wandering through Avengers Tower, he comes across Hawkeye and Circe, and this is after Hawkeye left the main team of Avengers and went off to make his West Coast Avengers. When he had left the team, basically the West Coast Avengers were Avengers, the side characters, but But what happens is we see that Thanos' effect when he had snapped his fingers and accomplished Mr. Death's task, that it appears to happen here. And what happens is both Hawkeye and Circe both disappear without any explanation. And we see Captain America looking absolutely terrified because he tells himself after this that with this happening, he had no control to save them. And he came to the realization when that had happened that whatever was coming, whatever had done this, it would be something that the Avengers, the X-Men, Spider-Man, no super team on Earth has ever faced before. We also get a sense of how Nick Fury is taking the situation. We pick up with him on his space helicarrier, I guess. And what we see is him talking to the president on the phone. It better be Barack. He right there smoking his little... Never mind. But basically, the president is asking him basically the same thing that we all should be asking. What the heck is going on? How are all these people just vanishing out of nowhere? And Nick Fury has no clue as well. And you would think that S.H.I.E.L.D. would know because they're the greatest spy network on the globe. And the fact that not even S.H.I.E.L.D. knows, everyone on Earth is so clueless. It paints an even greater picture of how unprepared they are for this threat. I mean, they're all screwed, guys. I think you guys know that. But, I think Jim Starlin just put this in to convey to the readers the severity of this situation and to know that, or to try to tell us that whatever this is, it's nothing that anyone on Earth would have any idea what had just happened. Okay, now we get to have some fun. So what happens here is we cut over to Hulk in a place, it's like a bar and grill called Smiling Stands, and I think you guys catch that reference. But what we see is Hulk is basically watching the news and he's like seeing news reporters talk about how these people are just magically vanishing, and Hulk just like throws his little cup at the TV, a little baby cup. He could have threw something bigger than that, but he's like, I heard enough. Let me just say, I don't. Well, I wouldn't say I don't like it, but I'm not really a fan of like Banner Hulk. Like I like the Raging Hulk, you know. But I mean, you know, I don't like him to be completely done like to talk, but I don't want him to like have a full sent. Like this budget said a whole paragraph. But yeah, that's the Hulk side. Okay, so continuing this montage of, profiling selective beings on what Thanos had just done and how they're taking it, it cuts over to the Skrull Empire, and it's like, the Skrulls coming to their head, Skrull mistress, and they're just telling her about, these people just disappeared, and the first thing that she says is it must be the Kree, so let there be war. And I have a question for you guys, if you know this. Did Thanos start the Kree Skrull War? I mean, I see that they say it's their ancient enemy, so I guess it probably goes farther back than that. But whoa, if he did, what the heck? That means Thanos was the precursor to the Skrull invasion, the creation of the Illuminati, all this stuff. But yeah, this is a nice little thing that Jim Starlin put in. But cutting back to Doctor Strange and Silver Surfer and the Sanctum Sanctorum, we see Silver Surfer in a very distressed, drawn out, strung out state, because Silver Surfer, him being a Herald of Galactus, if you guys didn't know that, he has an ability called Cosmic Awareness, and that's basically he knows, or he can like sense what's going on in the entirety of the universe, and he just feels this overwhelming sense of death, like with all the lives that are just just being wiped out, like out of nowhere without any explanation. And what happens here is Wong is actually another one of the people who are vanished, who vanish away, and Silver Surfer is just pleading to Doctor Strange, we have to stop Thanos. Billions of people are dying, and we just see Silver Surfer at an extremely, extremely low point. And also, with Wong disappearing, there's been a lot of questions about who's actually going to die in Infinity War. And I think everyone's in the same boat with, thinking that Captain America is going to die. I think that too. But also, let's not forget about these side characters. I feel like they're the only reason that they've been in the marketing is just because Thanos is he's going to kill them. Like, what are they going to do? Besides, like, the newer people, like, I feel like Wong's going to die because they already killed him in Doctor Strange. But, yeah, I feel like, this is just all textbook. From this point, the story cuts again to a different location, and this time it takes us to Saturn's moon, Titan. And if you guys didn't know, this is actually Thanos' home world. It's actually where he gets the whole moniker, the Mad Titan, from. But what we see is it gives us a perspective from Eros, Thanos' brother, if you guys didn't know. And he's basically doing what we had seen all the other superheroes doing, having a regular day. He's actually in the company of Firelord, a herald of Galactus, with the ability to manipulate fire on a cosmic scale. And we see that he's also there with Drax the Destroyer and Father, Thanos' real father, and his name is actually Father, if you guys didn't know that. But we see that he is one of the people to vanish due to what Thanos had done. And immediately, Drax the Destroyer begins to attack Firelord, asking him, what kind of magic is this? What have you done? And while he's doing this, Eros asks his, I don't know, AI or something, it's called Isaac, about what is happening. He basically tells him that there is a planet-wide phenomenon. Half of the population has suddenly vanished without trace, and there's no type of explanation for the occurrence. And immediately, Firelord, Drax, and Eros immediately knew that the one cause to whatever this was Thanos. So from this point, the story picks up back with Ralph, Jake, and Bambi, and where we see Pip the Troll with his new inhabited body. He's just there, and he's hanging out with the new body that Gamora had just inhabited, and I'm just revealing now that that is Gamora. But what we see is that Gamora is also one of the people who vanished as a result of what Thanos had done when he had snapped his fingers. And what we see that when Pip is like going crazy, like, what's happening? It's not my fault. He opens the door that Jake, the body that Jake, the new soul that inhabited Jake's body would be in. And when he gets in that room, he finds a cocoon there. And this cocoon is going to play a very pivotal role to who is in this cocoon. But yeah, from this point, guys, this concludes the first issue of Jim Starlin's The Infinity Gauntlet. And we're now going to start issue number 2, From Bad to Worse. So beginning issue number 2, From Bad to Worse, the story basically continues with the whole montage of chronicling how each collective party is dealing with the great disappearance when Thanos has snapped his fingers and deleted half of the life of the universe. But what we see is that the story picks up back in New York City, where we see a jet airliner about to crash, because it seems that the pilot and the co-pilot, both of them, were two of the people who vanished, resulting in what Thanos had done. And what we see that the Avengers, more specifically Thor, Vision, and She-Hulk, are some of the people who are on scene to, help the civilians, get them to safety and all that. And I guess Jim Starlin put this in to show readers that this was the Avengers' first instance in dealing with a catastrophe of what Thanos had done. But from this point, the story basically continues with the montage that it had in issue one, when it was profiling different people and how they were taking the Great Disappearance. And what we see is that the story basically picks up with Quasar and Epoch. And I'm not too well versed in Quasar's mythology, so if you guys want to, flesh that out in the comments, feel free to do so. But we see him basically realizing that the Great Disappearance had occurred, and we also switch over back to the Skrull Empire, or the Kree Empire. I'm sorry, and we basically see them immobilizing their forces against the Skrull Empire. So I guess this is the start of the Kree Skrull War. What the heck? Ooh, I cannot wait until we start Secret Invasion. And oh, spoiler, never mind. But yeah. So from this point, we pick back up with Doctor Strange in his Sanctum Sanctorum, and we see that he actually has an unexpected guest. And when he opens the door, and it's revealed to the readers that this guest is actually Dr. Henry Pym, the first Ant-Man, if you guys didn't know. And what we see is, ooh, calling it now, guys. Doctor Strange going through his dimensions and all this stuff, and Ant-Man Scott Lang with the quantum realm. I'm betting money right now that this scene, this interaction between these two characters, I don't know in what, way how it'll play out, but I know this will happen sometime during Avengers 4. Bet money right now. But basically what we see is that Doctor Strange and Henry Pym, they're both consulting each other, trying to figure out what exactly happened with this great disappearance. Why are all these superheroes just blinking out of existence? And what we see is that they have no explanation. They can't explain why this is happening. And as Hank Pym is leaving, he's like telling Doctor Strange he needs to contact the original Avengers, other stuff. But what we see is that Doctor Strange's apprentice, I don't know who this guy is, I'm not going to lie to you guys, but he literally looks like a green minotaur. He notices that Doctor Strange seems to be in a trance, and what we see is that he's in a different dimension, and there is a voice talking to him, and it's asking him, can he hear him? And Doctor Strange replies and says yes, and the voice tells him that he had been trying to contact Doctor Strange for an extremely long time. And when Doctor Strange asks this person, who is he? The voice replies and says he may be the one to save their reality from the insanity that is Thanos, but to do this, he can't do it alone. And what he tells Doctor Strange is that he must, conjure up an army of his reality's most powerful, Earth's mightiest heroes is what he means, and basically round these people up to fight the forces of Thanos with the Infinity Gauntlet. And he tells Doctor Strange that there needs to be a leader to this team, and that leader must be him. And granted, he tells Doctor Strange he knows that it's not hard to trust someone who just comes into your freaking mind space, coming into your dimension, pulling you out when you just trying to figure out other stuff. So he offers Doctor Strange a melding of souls, and I guess it's, their souls become one and they can fully understand each other. And Doctor Strange accepts this. And once they do this, Doctor Strange even warns the guy. He tells him, if you try anything, I swear, I got something for you. And I don't know. If you kind of let some dude go into your headspace, I feel like it's kind of deserving if anything happens to you. But I digress. Also, let me add that the visuals of this is crazy, and I know that they already confirmed that Adam Warlock won't be in either Avengers 3 or 4, but I really hope they find some way to make this scene happen, because the visuals in this, in just the comic alone, are crazy. But basically, as Doctor Strange is released from this trance, as his apprentice, the Minotaur guy, pulls him out, Doctor Strange basically comes to the conclusion that he trusts this guy absolutely, and he tells him that whatever he wishes, that Doctor Strange will do. Now that I think about it, these are the character introductions, profiling the people that'll try to usurp the gauntlet from Thanos, chronicling your favorite characters, the Avengers, Spider-Man, the X-Men, and their perspectives is how they're taking the great disappearance when Thanos had just snapped his fingers. And I just coined it in the last one. But basically, we pick up with Doctor Doom and we get his perspective of the great disappearance. And we basically see him doing the same thing that all the other perspectives were doing, basically immobilizing to try to figure out what had just happened. And let me also add that I'm kind of upset that the Disney Fox deal hasn't gone through, because we won't be able to see. Can you imagine Doctor Doom versus Thanos? I mean, don't get me wrong, Doctor Doom is toast with Thanos with the Infinity Gauntlet, but that would be something cool to see. But anyways, the story brings us back to Eros, Firelord, and Drax the Destroyer, where we see the three of them still trying to figure out what Thanos had done to make the Great Disappearance occur. What we see is that while they're doing this, Eros appears to be one of the people who disappear as a result of what Thanos had done when he had snapped his fingers. But what we see is that in the very next panel, Eros actually opens his eyes, and when he does, Thanos is standing in front of this man holding the Infinity Gauntlet with all 6 gems in it. Oh god. And excuse my French, Eros got that like, oh shit, this man undid it face. Like, he's got the stones. It's it. This is it. And Eros is even thinking to himself, like, he immediately recognizes the stones and he realizes that Thanos possessing all 6 of them, it only spells dire consequences, potentially the end of the entire universe. But wait, there's more. If you thought this was bad enough, he looks over and he sees Mephisto, essentially the devil of the Marvel Universe. Then he looks to his left and he sees Mistress Death. Ooh, then he sees like Nebula. She all twisted and messed up. Eros is just like, ooh, I know Eros is peeing in his pants right now. But Eros being the cool man that he is, he basically has this power where that he can use his voice and it basically manipulates people's emotions. And he tries to use this to cohort Thanos to take the Infinity Gauntlet off. He's like saying things like, everything will turn out the way that you wanted it to and all this stuff. Just trying to be on Thanos' nuts as Mephisto was earlier. Because how can you not when he can do whatever he wants? And, basically that's a big psych because Thanos caught on to that. He knows that he's trying to charm him. And I guess he uses the Reality Stone or maybe even the Power Stone. But he deletes his mouth and he tells Mistress Death and Mephisto, and I guess Nebula too, because she's standing right there, that all of these annoyances, any annoyance, will just cease to exist. Another example of Thanos' complete omnipotent godhood. So from this point, the story cuts back over to Captain America and the Avengers and Avengers Tower, where we see them really going over all of the superheroes who had supposedly vanished as a result of what Thanos had done when he had snapped his fingers. And what we see is that actually a multitude and actually really prominent superheroes are some of those who had vanished. We see Black Panther, the entire Fantastic Four, prominent members of the X-Men, Beast, Archangel, Daredevil, Dagger from Cloak and Dagger, so that means Cloak is by himself. And if you guys don't know too much about them, their powers are really, really drawn to each other. So Cloak is probably really weak right now, and you guys will see that later on in the story. But we also see other heroes, Puck from Alpha Flight, Quicksilver, Wasp. So many superheroes are gone, and this really hit the superhero community in a very, very drastic way. But as a side note, as the Earth's superheroes are assessing the damage of what Thanos had done and really all of the superheroes that they had lost, we find out that both the X-Men and Excalibur are 2 teams that the Avengers aren't able to come into contact with. And these are very 2 prominent teams in Marvel Comics at the time because, this is, the Chris Claremont giant-sized X-Men era, and that was when the X-Men were popping. But, it's led to the readers at this point that the X-Men are out of there. They're not there anymore. They probably vanished too. But while we're on this note and while he's talking about it, I want to let you guys know this is not actually the original Thor, Donald Blake, Odin's son that you guys know and love. This is actually Eric Masterson Thor, and I can't really remember the exact storyline where it occurred or why Marvel had done it. I want to say it has something to do with Ragnarok, but I think Ragnarok doesn't happen like a little later after the storyline. But if I'm wrong and you guys know, please feel free in the comments for me. But we cut over to Odin, the father of Thor, and where he's meeting up with other sky fathers like Vishnu, who else? Zeus, other gods in the Marvel Universe, not cosmic entities. If you guys want a detailed, explanation of how Marvel handles their hierarchy, I suggest you guys look at Comics Explained hierarchy videos. They're really, really helpful. But yeah, we basically see them coming to the conclusion that they need to mobilize their forces to stop Thanos after Odin dons the ceremonial eye patch of sorrow, which you guys seen him wear it in the movies and obviously the comics, but it's basically gives him cosmic awareness, and it's after he senses this universal plague that they go ahead and start mobilizing. And we cut over to Quasar and Epoch as they're mobilizing their forces or their abilities to go and stop Thanos. So I think you guys are starting to get the sense that it's starting to heat up. The wheels are turning and the conflict is getting closer and closer. But we cut back to Pip the Troll, and where he's just still in that motel where him, Jake, and Bambi were with their new souls. And we see that while he's there just smoking, drinking, hanging out like a chill dude, the cocoon that he was in there, that was there with him that we talked about earlier, it actually explodes. And as it's like a soul protruding from it, and like its only reply to Pip is that it is after Thanos. So yeah, things are getting hot. The conflict is coming close, guys, and we're going full steam ahead. Also, is Pip watching Alf? Is that what that thing is? Like that old TV show? I don't know if you guys seen it, but that thing is scary. Why is he blue? I thought it was brown. I'm scared. Okay, never mind. So as we're catching back up with the Doctor Strange and the Silver Surfer back at the Sanctorum, we see that Doctor Doom is actually arrived on location, and he seems to have gotten the upper hand on Doctor Strange. And as Silver Surfer tries to approach Doom and intervene with a conflict, Doctor Doom just go ahead and blast him across the room, because you got to remember, Silver Surfer just had a conflict with Thanos and it didn't go too well for him, so he's weak at the moment. So it's very plausible that this can happen, because I would say any other day Surfer would wipe the floor with him. I love Doctor Doom, by the way, but yeah, I'm just gonna throw that out there. But we see that before this conflict can really get going, we see that this guy, the guy who's in the cocoon, I said his name earlier, but I didn't want to flesh him out until now. Adam Warlock appears along with Pip the Troll, and he tells them that in his time, many called him Adam Warlock, and that they may do so if they feel inclined. But Mr. Adam Warlock, Mr. Space Jesus, is going to go ahead and try to flesh this guy out. Keyword try. So Adam Warlock, he was basically created by this group in Marvel Comics called the Enclave, artificial intelligence and whatnot. You guys know how that goes. He has to go and make his own personality and whatnot. So through this, he actually ended up fighting Thor, where he had tried to make Sif his wife, and that didn't go as planned. But I forget how it was. Oh yeah, when he wanted to counter Earth, and he had fought all these guys, and it was it the Magus that he had to fight? Because I know Magus comes back in Infinity War. We're going to cover that, so don't. But yeah, his story is really complicated, but it was during when he was in Counter Earth that he had actually acquired the Soul Stone, which is why that's in his forehead. So that's the basis of this explanation, is that Adam Warlock possesses that Soul Stone. And I feel like that, I don't think so much Adam Warlock. I think that Soul Stone will come into play a lot during Avengers Infinity War. I actually think the Soul Stone is the most important out of the stones. It's the most ambiguous on like what it can do, and so I feel like there's a lot that Marvel can do with that. Now, I want you guys to bear with me, because this scene of the story takes place at the very same time that Doctor Strange and Silver Surfer are in the Sanctum. We see that Thanos is still in that unspecified place in the universe, where we see him twisting reality in extremely distorted and twisted ways on Nebula and Eros to try to persuade Mrs. Death to love him. But you guys already know she is not going. But Thanos, oh man, I commend you for the perseverance, but bro, you are a thirst god. She is not going. But we see is Eros is just noticing how crazy and thirsty Thanos is getting. We cut back over to Doctor Strange, Adam Warlock, Doctor Doom, and Silver Surfer at the Sanctorum as they're trying to discuss the plan that they need to stop Thanos, or try to usurp the gauntlet from him. And we see that Adam Warlock tells them that he needs to lead the army that Doctor Strange was supposed to muster for him. Warlock's personal mission for Strange. But we see that Doom questions him about why he should be the one to have that leadership. And Warlock enlightens them on his connection to the Soul Stone and how he knows of the secret inner workings of the Infinity Stones, and that he may be the only key to stopping Thanos. And Doctor Strange says that connection will be enough. And when Silver Surfer is basically on stand to, say who he'll side with, he basically says Adam Warlock, because that means that he won't have to side with Doctor Doom. So it's a little bit of fun though with us. But we cut back over to Thanos, and we see him constantly warping reality. He turns Nebula into ribbons. He turns freaking Eros into cubism art. He's an Andy Warhol art piece. What the heck? But we see that as in this wild expression of his power, he actually blows up a red giant star out into a distance. That's another example of his incredible omnipotent power. And it's just completely solidifying the fact that this guy, Thanos, holding the Infinity Gauntlet with all 6 gems, it's the end. But immediately after this, we find out that red giant star that Thanos had destroyed when he had released that immense amount of power, that it didn't stop there. That blast was ongoing. And we actually find out that once that blast reaches Earth, it will only have reached 2% of its peak power. So that's going to spell dire consequences for Earth. But we actually find this out through the World Eater himself, Galactus. And I think Galactus joining the fray of this story, it gives you guys an even greater scale of the magnitude of this story, of the lengths that everyone will have to go to stop Thanos, or try to stop Thanos. Key word in all this, try. Now, coming back to New York for the instant consequence, we pick up with Cloak from Cloak and Dagger. And if you guys don't remember, we had discussed earlier, Dagger was actually one of the individuals that had vanished as a result of Thanos snapping his fingers. And I had said that Cloak and Dagger's powers were connected in a very, very deep way. So Cloak is actually just trying to ponder what he needs to do next, what he should do now that Dagger is gone and he doesn't have her love. But we see that as he's, pondering this, instant consequence, Thanos' blast is felt on Earth, and we see buildings are starting to crumble, and we see buildings are actually starting to fall down, and one's about to fall down on a mother and her son. But we see that a man actually saves them, and we find out that this is actually Wolverine stepping into the fray. So I guess not all the X-Men are gone. But then we cut over to Iron Man in space, where he's just trying to figure out what's happening, and like the energy from the blast hits him and it sends him flying back to Earth. And as he's flying back to Earth, he actually runs into a Quinjet with some other Avengers, basically whoever's left, Scarlet Witch, Wonder Man, and Human Torch. And this is not the Human Torch, because you guys do remember we talked again that the entire Fantastic Four is gone. So this is actually Toro, the original Human Torch from the Invaders, and we basically see the Avengers just trying their hardest to try and save their world, even though that it is falling apart right in front of them. But when we come back to Odin and the Skyfathers, we find out that when Thanos' psychic blast hits them, it actually shatters the Bifrost Bridge, or the Rainbow Bridge as they call it right here. But if you guys didn't know, this is actually the bridge that connects Asgard to other realms in the 9 realms, more specifically Midgard, Earth. But, the Bifrost being shattered, this basically means that Odin and the Skyfathers won't be able to help the Earth superheroes and basically the rest of the universe dealing with the catastrophe and just the destruction of Thanos wielding the Infinity Gauntlet. Now, when we come back to Earth, we actually pick up with Namor the Submariner, who is actually I consider Namor a villain because of what he did during Avengers vs. X-Men, what he was doing during the prelude to Secret Wars. We're gonna talk about Namor, but we're basically getting his perspective of how he's taking the blast that Thanos had just, released into the universe. And we see that as he's swimming under the waters, we see new isles have actually formed, and they actually look like volcanoes that are protruding from the waters and probably heating it and just destroying an immense amount of ocean life. So Namor just tries to, go there and figure out what he needs to do to try to stop it. As hopeless as it is. But then we cut over to Namorita. Does anybody even remember Namorita? I remember her from Marvel Ultimate Alliance, the original Ultimate Alliance when you were on Atlantis. And I know she's like his twin or clone or something, but that's as far as I know. I don't even think she's in Marvel Comics anymore. But what we basically see is her saving a couple from like a giant tsunami. And, I guess is that a Trump Tower? That is a Trump Tower. Oh, okay, done with that part. But we cut over to Thor, and we see him, basically relaying to the Avengers what he was able to do trying to help everyone. And we see that all he is able to do is he's swimming over like a large body of water, and he tells them that they are no more. So we can assume that whatever this water was not supposed to be here, and it probably just got there, and it most definitely took a lot of life when it came. But finally, after all of the catastrophe and destruction that had just wrecked through New York, the world, and potentially the entire universe, we come back to Avengers HQ, where we see the Avengers really trying to figure out their next move and really calling in the reserves, finding whoever is left to try and help them save their world. We see them really showing no discrimination. You can see on the computer, Vision is actually trying to contact the Inhumans, Crimson Dynamo. Captain America even mentions the West Coast Avengers, the side characters. But I think you guys should just know that this is all hands on deck, and as heroic as their efforts are hopeless at the end of this. The world is screwed. But we come back to Doctor Strange, Silver Surfer, Adam Warlock, and Doctor Doom as they're assessing the damage of the earthquake on their part, and we see that as they're just talking about what had happened, Pip remarks to them, and he says that someone has pissed God off, and Adam Warlock replies, and he says exactly. So he knows that Thanos has done this. That Thanos just ended the world. Wow, there you have it, guys. Thanos just ended the world, and we're not even on page 100. Woo, that was a long video. Guys, we have just finished Infinity Gauntlet number 2, From Bad to Worse, and in the next video, we will be starting number 3, Preparations for War. Guys, the moment is getting closer when we will see that conflict that you guys have been waiting for, when we will see the Avengers, the X-Men, Spider-Man, really the Earthbound superheroes as they try to take on Thanos and usurp the power of the Infinity Gauntlet from him. I'm so excited. I have Infinity War vibes to the maximum, guys. I'm going to see it tomorrow, so expect a spoiler video. I definitely said spoilers because I don't see a point in making a video without spoilers, but I'm going to release it a week after the movie so you guys have enough time to see it. But yeah, if you guys like the video. Remember to like, comment anything you would want to see in the next video, anything you like, didn't like. And yeah, if you really like it, remember to subscribe. And yeah, you guys have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you later. Goodbye.